attending my webinar today on the Fundamentals of ACA Reporting in LMS.net. I wanted to just, if you're new to GoToMeeting, there's a little white arrow on an orange button that you can click if you need to collapse the sidebar if it's in your way. Is everybody seeing this on my screen right now?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, good. I sometimes forget to turn off the pause button. You can also hit View and Hide Control Panel from the drop-down menu. If you need to step away, get in, or if somebody walks in and starts yelling or screaming in the office where you're at, you can hit the mute button or hang up and dial back in. But don't put us on hold because I got open mic on everybody, so people can ask questions. So mute or hang up and call back. And that's the website for where I'm going to post the webinar. But don't have to write it down or anything. If you need to log in, I'll send the link the link to the website and your login. If you just send it to support@gatekeepersolutions.com. That's our 800 number in case you didn't already have it. And support@gatekeepersolutions.com will actually get you to our email address. If you put attention Dustin in the body of the message and you send it to support, I usually get those faster than if you send it directly to my personal email here at work, because they get processed in Vision, our support software, and get in my call queue quicker. All right, I'll go ahead and close that. I've already logged into the product over here, and so I'm here on the home screen. Now you saw in that email that I sent out to everybody that there's a lot of stuff that's still changing, and there's some stuff that's in draft form. So that 1095, 1094 stuff that I sent you drafts on is nothing that's like worked into the product yet or anything like that. It's just stuff that we're just watching it and waiting to find out if they're going to approve it and if that's going to be the final version of those forms. But I'll show you what's in the product today. Like I said, I must have been logged into this thing for about 10 minutes now. First thing you want to do is set up your measurement periods in the system. And you do that by going to Company and Edit Company. And I'm going to jump right down to the miscellaneous section here. And down at the bottom is where you set up your measurement periods. The ACA allows you, like upon an initial hire of somebody, you can start their initial measurement period either from their anniversary date, start date, or the first of the month that follows after their anniversary. And it's that initial measurement period will equal the same measurement period as your standard measurement period, which in this case on my demo database is 6 months. So I'm starting on March 1st, going out 6 months. That's my measurement period. I've got 90 administrative days to anybody that is deemed full-time, 30 or more hours a week on average, or I think it's 130 per month. If they hit either of those, then you have to offer them insurance if you're under the ACA umbrella. And this will give you 90 days to offer before that insurance needs to go into effect. Your measurement periods can be anywhere from as short as 3 months up to 12 months. That's the maximum. The admin days are no more than 90 days. So I've seen any ranges between 30, 60, or 90 days is usually what people set up. And then once you offer them the insurance, then you have to keep them stable for a certain amount of time, and it's got to be no less than 6 months. I guess that's the only condition there is it can be no less than 6 months as your stable period. I don't know anybody that isn't just doing 12 months though, because if you do the 6-month thing, you're going to have to do twice the amount of work because you're always taking people off insurance and putting them off insurance every 6 months instead of just once a year. In that outline that I send out to everybody, I had some examples of what some other companies are doing with their measurement periods. And let's see if I can bring up a picture. Here's Company A, just an example where I've set up a company that's their standard initial measurement period is 12 months. They've given themselves 30 days to do the admin work, and the stability period matches the measurement period. I think there's a rule in there that says that yeah, the stability period cannot be shorter than your measurement period. So this has to be at least as long as this up here. So for this company, they're starting their measurement period on December 1st, going to the end of November of the next year. They give themselves 30 days to get everybody, anybody that's eligible for insurance, offer them the insurance, and then it goes into effect on January 1st, 2015, and it runs for a year. And then at the same time, they're already starting their next measurement period. And we have reports that you can run in our system for that, and I'll show you those here momentarily. Now, when you hire somebody in the middle of a measurement period, they also get a 12-month lookout period with the way this database is set up. So you do 12 months from when they were hired. Say he was hired somewhere in February. So the March 1st would be the first to February 28th, 1 year here, 30 days, and then you've got to at least offer them that insurance for that amount of time. Now, when he gets to the end of this time, you can go back and look at what his measurement period was for the standard period here, and if he's still qualified during this time, you can go ahead and extend it out to here. Otherwise, if he didn't qualify here, then you could go ahead and stop him at this point. But you're taking two measurements right here at the same time for new hires, and then when they get past that first year, you can check them against that last standard measurement period to see if they still qualify. That's just one example. Another example, this is the one that I was talking about where you do double the work. You got 6-month measurement periods. You give yourself a 1-month admin period and a 6-month stability period, because it has to be at least 6 months. And so you're really doing double the work, because you're doing 6 months, 30 days, a stability period, and then already you're doing another 6 months, 30 days, and another stability period. And new hires work the same way. You do the 6 months, 30 days, then 6 months, and then when they get to the end of this period, you go back and see. In his case, it happens to hit kind of just right, but you have to go back and look at that standard measurement period, or that, and see if you want to give him stability out to here or not. And I think my favorite setup, I think the one that I think most of my clients prefer, is something like this. But every company's different, so. But this one's I think this is the one that's the easiest to manage. Is you give yourself a 9-month window for a measurement period, and wherever you start it doesn't have to start right here. But then you've given yourself a full 3 months, the max, to get them signed up for the insurance, and then the stability period starts for 1 year. Now, I have some clients that are actually push this standard measure. They do the same thing, but they don't start on March 1st. They start where they push it back 2 months, so that when they finally get to the end of their AP administrative period, the insurance starts on January 1st. But I do like the 9-month, 3-month, 12-month thing, because you can give gives you about some time to run some reports, find out who do you need to offer insurance to, and then when you offer it to them, they still have time to get back to you and decide whether they want to sign up for it or waive their right to the insurance. So that's just some examples.
Is there an administrative period for those that are when you run the report and they don't qualify? Do you have a period for them to find additional insurance, or?
If they don't, well, you're just running these. You're doing these initial measurement periods for all your. Like if you're a full-time employee, you might as well just go ahead and offer them the insurance whenever you normally would offer them the insurance.
Okay.
You're only running these measurement periods against those people that you deem are part-time employees that you don't plan on offering insurance to. And you're checking to make sure that they don't creep up above 30 hours a week. So the whole mindset here is that they're not going to be offered insurance, but you're catching any nasty surprises.
Okay.
So I don't know about, if they go, there is a checkbox in our system where you can say that the employee went to the exchange to get their insurance.
Okay.
Personally, it's just me. Whether for me, I would just say all I care about is if they waived it. If I was supposed to offer it to them and they waived it, then I want something, hopefully in writing, that they said they waived it.
Right.
Because if they go back to the exchange after they've waived it from you, and the feds could come back and fine you, and that's how they get their fine, the extra money is from people going to the exchange to get insurance where their business should have been offering it to them. But you're safe if you've got, if you've got that waiver.
Right.
Let me go back. Okay, so those are my 3 examples there. Now I want to talk about, we're going to stay in this company setup a little bit longer here. I wanted to show you some of the things that you need to make sure are set up for this year. So when none of this stuff that's been going on, it's all been grace periods have been implemented, relief periods have been implemented. So really none of this stuff really goes into effect until this year. All that 2014 stuff, with exception of one exception, the box 12 code DD on the W-2s, where you report the total cost of insurance premiums on the W-2. If you have 250 or more employees or W-2s this year, or as of 2014, you should be putting that onto the W-2. If you're less than 250, then that's optional. But to get this stuff all ready for this year, all your hourly incomes in the system, whether they're worked hours or non-worked hours. So I've got bereavement, jury duty, a lunch paid rule that was done for, I believe, California. I've got all those marked as ACA. And so as far as counting how many hours an employee works or how many hours an employee's getting paid, it doesn't matter if it's worked hours or non-worked hours. All hours are ACA hours. So I've got jury duty, bereavement, my lunch paid in here, all set to the ACA. Also our defaults down here. We'll already have them set as ACA, but and any hourly income that you set up, we check it by default. But you may want to double check and make sure somebody didn't uncheck that box. Like holiday pay, PTO, the regular and overtime, of course, ACA. All those need to be checked. On the deduction side, we need to keep track of, for affordability purposes, there's a field in here, and you just set it up on your medical insurance. So I've got one in here, my medical insurance right here. You'll want to have that ACA health box checked. What that does is it opens up another field here for employee cost. And what we're looking for here to help fill out that we have that affordability test report in our system to help get accurate numbers, you need to put in here the self-coverage cost for the employee. This isn't what the employee is necessarily having deducted from him. It's just the lowest bronze level self-coverage cost plan that you guys offer. And so you put the cost of that in here. Now, if the employee opts to go with the silver, gold, or platinum plans, or they add their spouse or dependents, that'll add additional costs. But right here, you just want the self-coverage, and then you can push that out to all your existing employees. If you look, I'm going to run over here and show. This just helps you fill it out. It's actually the field's actually on the employee level. We just have it here so that you can quickly update it when you need to. If I jump over to the edit employee screen, do a search here and just pick somebody. Under deductions here, you'll see that employee cost field also shows up in here, down here. So I could, if I had pushed that out, it would show $15 here. And then whatever plan the employee actually elects to take, you can put that cost right here. So you got the $100 here coming out every pay period for the employee, but you're tracking a $15 minimum insurance cost down here. And then, of course, I want to make sure that's active. And if you need that, and it tracks it every pay period. So if you get a few months into this and before you get this set up, and you need me to help you roll that employee cost record out, retroactively back to January 1st, I can do that for you. I can run a simple SQL over here and force that back for you, or back to a certain whatever date you tell me to. And if there was 2 rates in the middle of the year, like it switched, and you need my help, I can retroactively apply it at this amount from here for a date range, and then I can help you get it going forward with the new rate. But if you get it in beforehand, that's great, and then you're always up to snuff. Let's see.
If it changes during the year, then we just go out and change that rate on our re-enrollment.
Right.
Okay.
In a perfect world, if you get the rate in time and you can go ahead and change that employee cost, you do it at the time that you're ready to before you process that next payroll where the premiums change. And I have some other tricks too to changing premiums or the actual deductions that come out from employees. There's a tool I use in here called the New Hire Auto Items. This isn't really ACA related, but I can go in. When your premiums change, call me and I can show you a way to use this to push out new rates to the employees, and then we'll go back to the company edit screen and push out the employee cost from here. There's some fields. Also, let's go back to the employee records here. I'm going to go under HR information here. Down at the bottom of the HR screen here is where you can track the current status of the employee as far as ACA coverage. Anybody that you hire in the system, I should say, if you hire a salary person full-time, we'll default this to full-time for you. And then you don't really have to run a lot of ACA reporting to, check to make sure that they're getting their 30 hours because they're already at full-time. Everybody else we're going to set up as, let's see, what's the default? Full-time. well, everybody else will either be part-time, variable, or ongoing. You'll be a part-time employee, so you're going to want to track them, make sure that they don't do their more than 30 hours a week. Or variable, can work more or less than 30 hours, but you're going to want to watch it. And then the ongoing, this is the ones that, so the variable would be the ones where you're, you don't know when you first hire them whether they're going to be 30 or more or 30 or less. So you can set them to variable, and then once you find out that they are working more than 30, you can set them to ongoing. And that way you're going to be checking it every measurement period from that point on. And then exempt, we put this in. We had some clients that had leased employees in the system that weren't really their employees, or they had internships or something. And if you set somebody to exempt in here, it removes them from all ACA reporting. It's not very common, but I'm thinking like internships, or if you're just tracking somebody's time because you're paying a temp agency, you can still get them in the system without it mucking up your ACA reports. Over here under ACA health plan status, you got pending. This is when you've offered the employee insurance, and you're just waiting for them to decide yes or or they're going to waive it. Once they've made that decision, they either signed it and they're on it, or they've waived it and you've got hopefully a waiver that they've signed. Exchange means they've gone to the exchange to get their insurance. And then unknown is the default value in our system. Until one of these things happen, they're left at an unknown status. So that's pretty much it for the employee section and the company section. Now let's go look at some of the reports that you get from all this data that we've been pouring into here. It's all under reports, HR, and there's the ACA information here. Now if you've got our time and attendance package, you've got these first two reports, the summary and the detail. I'm going to show you the summary one first. I set that to summary. I'll go ahead and put in my measurement period. I'm just going to make something up here because just so you can see the report. I'll just do 6 months here. So I'd put my measurement period, my standard measurement period here, whether you want it in employee or base department order. Options to hide the Social Security number. All ACA hours, which is usual. This was unusual. Somebody wanted it, though, to track only punches or gross only. This one's going to be more accurate to what you need. I'll talk about initial period here in a minute. If you got multiple companies, you can search across all companies to get this report. Only show active non-salaried employees. That's an option, but I usually just leave it unchecked. And use the salary default. Usually if they're salary, I don't even want to pull them up on this report anyways, but we had somebody that wanted this, so we put it on here. Because I think they were really trying to look at all their hours. Although if you're full-time salary, then I don't want to really have to, I'm only running this for my part-timers or my variable or my ongoing employees. So if they're part-time, variable, or ongoing, these are filters I've got over here. I can run it just for those 3 categories. Ignore the full-time because they're going to get the insurance no matter what. Ignore the exempt because they're not going to get it anyways. And then I had some client. Then I went ahead and had them add a filter for year-round and seasonal if you wanted to do them in 2 separate reports. But And then you got some more filters over here as well, but usually I just work with these over here. And I'm usually just looking at active employees, because if they're gone, and I don't have to offer them insurance. I'll go ahead and you can do page breaks. I'm going to just go ahead and hit continue or generate report. You can also send it to a server queue, which you can find on the home page. After when it's done, it'll send you an email, and you can find it on your home page as a PDF. I do that sometimes if I'm running a really large report. If I was running it like like in detail mode and I was running it for a lot of employees, I would send it to the server queue and let the server run in the background while I do other things. Okay, so this report's going to show me the filters I had turned on, just as an FYI. It's going to give me their name, their number. I've hid the SOC, their hire date or rehire date in here. If they're rehires, they got a little R there. And we've abbreviated what they're currently set at. So this person's a part-time, year-round, hourly employee. So that can be useful. What's their base department? We've got that listed here. If in that standard measurement period that I picked in that date range, how many weeks did they actually were active in the system? It's got the total hours, and then it breaks it out into weekly averages and a monthly average. So if it goes over 30, you can see it'll stand out because we put it in bold and we put a little X next to it. So this person right here, if he wasn't already on insurance, would need to be offered the insurance based off of that standard measurement period. I've got 3 pages here. Let me see if there's anybody else that hit like the monthly, because you got to test it both ways, monthly and okay. So I only had the one weekly guy. Everybody else was under, so in the part-time categories. So I've just got one person I would need to offer insurance to. Now, if I wanted to like really look at a specific employee and find out, well, what the heck happened here? He was supposed to work under 30 hours. That's where I run that detail report. This gave me sums, but if I go back and I run this in an average hours detail, and let me pick, I want to pick somebody that I know will probably show up with some data based off of this test database I'm doing, and say, well, this is crazy. What's going on? I'm going to pick this. I'm going to run some detail for this month and see what's going on with this guy. And I can go, I'll pick on Bill Clinton. And I'll go ahead and generate the report. And what this gives you a week by week. This helps too because the way the formula works, it does it on a week by week basis. So I can look in here and look at the daily totals and see what he did for the week. I can see this week, and I'm in trouble here because he went over. And if that keeps up, then I'm going to end up having to offer him insurance. So this detail could be useful if you're trying to run it month by month and try to manage, I wouldn't call it micromanage, but you're just trying to keep a lid on things. If somebody's supposed to be staying under 30 hours, you can watch it week by week in here. And then you get your totals down here. And if this had actually been a true measurement period, then these numbers down here would mean something to me as far as eligibility. Want to mention there is that initial period option in here. And what the system, I believe the system is looking, you run this every month. You run the initial period report once a month because it's going to go through. Let's see, I left myself some notes here. It looks back the last 6 months. In this case, since my measurement period is 6 months, it's going to look back the last, I think it actually looks back 7 months or something. It throws an extra month in there just so you can get a good range there. But it's going to look for those new hires and just those new hires and see if you need to offer them insurance at the end of their first 6 months. Let's see if I've got any. I didn't try this report, so I don't know if anything's, nope, nothing's coming up. I don't think I have any recent hires in the system, but it gives you the same information as the standard measurement period, but just for the, you run it once a month, and it's a floating report that you run it at in the moment in time kind of thing, and it always looks back 6 months to see if anybody you look at your new hires and see if any of them need the insurance. But it's the same exact report as your detail report for standard measurement periods. I should have gone in here and set somebody's hire date to something recent so they would show up in here. Now, let's talk about this full-time. Maybe you're a smaller company and you're wondering, maybe, oh, I've got less than 50 employees, or I've got more than 50 if you include all my part-timers, but I need to know whether I even have to follow the ACA guidelines, because it's only for companies that have 50 or more full-time equivalent employees. That's what FTE stands for, full-time equivalents. So I could run this report, and I can run it for last year and see if this year I'm going to end up having to follow the guidelines. And what I've got here is I've got every month for the year. All my full-time employees automatically count as a 1. So if you set somebody in the system as a full-time employee, that's one employee. Now if you've got part-timers, we do a formula based off of, and it's in the link in my newsletter, or that if you look at that lms.net ACA setup thing, there's one web link on that page, on that report, in that document, where it talks about how the formulas are calculated in here, and that's what we use to write this. So it talks about how we get to these numbers. So they've got 39 full-time employees in January. They have a bunch of part-timers, but they add up to 45 full-time employees. And they've got some seasonal employees, and we keep those in a separate category, whether they're full-time seasonal or full-time equivalent, because there's certain loopholes, exceptions that can be made for seasonal employees. So you may or may not need to include them in your number. And the way I've read it is all seasonal employees must be included in the calculation, and if an employer exceeds 50 full-time equivalent employees for a period of not more than 4 months during the year, and seasonal employees are the ones that cause that group to exceed 50, then seasonal employees can be disregarded when deciding if the employer is a large employer or not. If it's more than 4 months, then you can't exclude them. You got to include them in the number. And so with this small company that I've got set up in here, it came out, with or without seasonal, it came out to only 31 employees. So I wouldn't even have to do anything for ACA. And that might be something you need to check every year. And the last report in here on this, under this management report section, is the affordability test. And this is where that employee cost report comes into play, where you're tracking the minimum cost. Now in this case, I'm going to set it to both, because I need to check to make sure, if I'm going to get any penalties for not making it affordable, I need to know about the people that have left the company too. Now I'd normally run this for the full year, but you can run it more often if you want to, just to make sure that you're not getting into trouble with somebody working less hours and paying a lot for insurance. Same options as before, but maybe this time I'm going to go ahead and just do all employees, although I really have a hard time believing any full-time employee would have a problem getting the minimum. I see where the trouble might be, where you offer, somebody just eked above 30 hours, you had to offer it then the insurance, and then his hours dropped back down, and then suddenly it wasn't as affordable for him because his hours got reduced. And now they'll impose a penalty for not making it affordable. And affordable means 9.5% of or less. I guess it's 9.5% above is the penalty. Under 9.5% is affordable, and it's based off of looking at the box 1 federal wages on the W-2. Let's see if I can get this come up with some numbers. All right, some of the same stuff that was on the other reports: their name, number, their hire date, some of their status of part-time, variable, hourly, department. This will be their box 1 federal wages. This is that employee cost, all the records that we've been keeping track of, employee cost. And you want to make sure none of these go over 9.5%. And I've got a couple of people in here that are above that. 15% and 10%. Those would be the ones that would get me into trouble. And then you get an average, but really it's not about averages. It's about you're looking at individuals. Let's see, where was I? Assessed penalties. Okay, there's one report that we have in here that's for ACA that's not in the management section. And this would maybe be something managers would want to run if you have the time and attendance system. This wouldn't be for our payroll-only clients, but under management here, we've got an approaching overtime report. And normally this is used for employee. It's a moment in time report. So if I get halfway into the current week, and I've got schedules in for the employee, and this is providing I got schedules in for the employee, I can look to see if they're going to hit overtime. Well, we've used this now for making sure they don't hit 30 hours. So now anything that's over 30 hours is quote unquote overtime, but really it's just we don't want to see things over 30 hours. And I'm doing it based off the schedule, so it's going to look today being Thursday, it looks back at everything earlier in the week, or based off of my Department of Labor week. It's going to look at everything earlier in the week that's already been worked. It's going to look at everything I've got scheduled to work the rest of the Department of Labor week and see if I'm going to go over 30 hours. It also will not, this report will not pull any full-time employees into the report because they're already being offered insurance, so we don't need to worry about them. This is just to keep track of your part-timers, your variables, and ongoings employees. And I'll go ahead and generate this report. And now I know when Abigail here, she's already worked 10 hours in the week, but she's still, maybe she was only supposed to work 4 or 8 or 6 hours that day, but she's still scheduled to work another 24. And that means as far as being over 30 hours, that potential overtime really is your number for, this is taking us over that 30 hours a week threshold. You want this number over here to be 0 for those people. Actually, you don't even want to be close to 30. 30 in your 30 counts against you. So maybe if they worked earlier in the week and you see that they're scheduled to work more, then maybe you need to tell them not to, to go home early later in the week because they're only part-time and they can't work full-time hours. And then the rest of these guys are been overscheduled, so it's warning me about them. Even though I think the way I had this database set up, I'm right at the beginning of the pay period or of the week. So yeah, she worked Thursday. That was the beginning of my Department of Labor week, and all those other employees hadn't worked yet but they were overscheduled. So either way, they were going to show up on that report as a warning. Another way you could run it is if you don't have schedules in the system, you can just do it by total hours and do ACA. That way you're not really it's not projecting, but it's going to give you some totals so that you can monitor it and make sure you're not getting close to 30. And since it's ignoring the schedules that I have in the system, the only person I had in there was that one person that worked for 10 hours. And she's not getting close to 30, so there's no need to see it. I could take that off and lower this down and maybe put it at a 24 or something. But if you take that off, you're going to end up getting all employees. I kind of like this option because it will exclude all the full-time employees from the report. Let's see, and I've already gone over that, and I've already gone over the full-time equivalencies. And then there's a link on the last page, very last lines, where you can go and look at how we calculate the full-time equivalents. Okay, I got some questions in my chat. Let me see what they were here. Jennifer, what was the week column refers to in the average hours summary report? Well, you're measuring it in two ways. You're measuring it weekly and by month. Let me pull that report back up here. Average hours summary. Or were you asking about, this is the weeks, this is the number of weeks they were active in that measurement period. So I'm doing a 6-month measurement period here, which would be 26 weeks. And so I can see if somebody started in the middle of that measurement period or if they've been there for the full 26 weeks. Since this is a demo database, I've got some funky numbers showing up on here. Like this person's been here for the full 6 months, but she hasn't worked a single hour. But that's not common. But yeah, it's just the number of weeks they worked in that 6-month period. If they're not at least at 26 weeks, you're probably not going to even want to look at them on the standard measurement period. You'd go back and run the initial pay period ones. So this person that I've got down here that's getting that I show that you're going to have to offer insurance to, they're still in their first 6 weeks. So they're not even finished doing their initial measurement period. So I could probably ignore this one as far as having to offer them insurance because they're not in their first initial period. But it is a good heads up that they're on track to be offered insurance if something doesn't get changed. And maybe their status needs to be set to full-time instead. So I hope that answered your question, Jennifer. Yeah, you're just looking at, you just want the ones with the weeks that are your standard. And then if you're doing your initial period, then you're only looking at the ones that are at the end of their initial period. Did anybody else have any questions or something I can research for you and get back to you on? usually I get a question that I don't know the answer to with this stuff, and with everything being in flux still. I know some of this stuff like those 90, what was I talking about, those 1905 and those links that I had on those drafts that are out there, those probably won't even go into effect until the end of 2017 because they're still in draft form. I'll be surprised if they'll be ready any sooner, but we're watching them. So, all right. Well, if you have any other questions, just send them to support@gatekeepersolutions.com, which you can find on we got it right here on the home page. You can just click on this link and send an email. Attention, Dustin, if you want it to come to me specifically, and I'll follow up with all of them. I'll go ahead and stop the recording. Thank you.